Hello and welcome to Bug Free Productions, scripters and scribblers. Whether you're in design or in development, there's sure to be some things that you can use on this channel. So remember to follow on my Twitch or also on my YouTube channel and like and subscribe on YouTube. The best way to put any questions or comments would probably be on my YouTube channel inside the video comments. Um, with that, we're going to continue with our Brick Breaker tutorial and we'll get right into it here. So let's look at a couple of things. So when we left off, we had just finished the paddle. We just finished the paddle and we had just finished the ball before that. Um, Nothing too serious, pretty basic things, except for starting up if it was your first time using the new input system. So we have score on broken brick today. So we're going to look at the score for the brick. So basically, we're going to start making our bricks. So let's go ahead and open up the scene we made last time, which was in assets, folder scenes, game level, sample scene, game level. So game level, and my visual recorder was kind of being a little weird. So it's a little not quite what I wanted or had last time. Um, but we make do. Okay, so under here, we'll see our main camera, light, paddle, brick, ball. Cool. Well, we're gonna focus on our brick today. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and go into assets, and once I have my scene opened, so scenes, game level one, I'm gonna go back to assets, and I kind of want to make some materials just for argument's sake. So I just want, or for visual sake, so that I can see differences. So create. I'm gonna go right click, create material. So I can never find this. It's one of the great evasive things that cannot be found. We'll call this brick. Um, and we'll do a quick little, just make it red and throw that on the brick. So again, we just changed the albedo to be click and select color. And once our material is selected in the inspector, and then we can just drag it onto the cube. Probably the easiest way since our brick is a very simple cube. But next we did create a brick script. So let's open up our brick script by right click edit script. Should have opened this beforehand, but ah wells. It can't be helped. Might need to, I think it'll be fine. We'll see how it goes. So basically brick, it's a mono behavior. We didn't really edit anything about this yet. So I'm just gonna gut it and drop a few lines down. Since I'm the only one working on this project, I just use my name and date to let me know when I created it, and so people don't steal my other code because, you know, people love their copy paste. 9/6/25. So we have that. Then we have brick mono behavior. So what's our brick? Brick is basically just going to be destroyed after so many hits. So what does a brick essentially need? Brick's going to need a couple things. So this is a new thing I've been doing. Been doing hashtag region, bars, end region. And the reason I've been doing that is just because it offers me a little more flexibility than it does if I comment the sections. And as always, comment, industry is usually vars, accessors, methods, but I prefer vars, methods, accessors. Didn't want that. And that's just because that's how I edit things. I usually keep adding local variables that are private or protected by this class, and then edit methods that do things based on those variables. Like if you want to be very secure, you don't really have a whole lot of accessors because why would you let other public classes have access? But that's a deeper topic than today. So we're going to continue. Vars, we're going to need a health variable. So we could do int. I'm kind of going to go with float because if we want to use percentages later to do some editing, it'll be a lot easier. Let's do a private float, and this is going to be a health. If you look at my other videos, you'll notice that I don't do this anymore, but this is good for beginning and just getting this particular one done quick because it doesn't have a uh, whole lot of working parts. So float health equals, let's give it a default of 10, float. Uh, yeah, it should be fine. So this is going to be oh, actually health is bad. Because what we're actually going to want is current health. And why do we want current health? Well, we want to measure what our max health is and our current health, just in case we want to heal or do negative damage, which could be interesting. Um, so we usually break current health. Um, current health and max health. Usually I do just default these to the same thing unless there's something special. Which for this one I don't think there is, so we'll leave this. Usually I would separate this health management out into a health script, but this is an entry level ones or entry level video, so we're just going to kind of leave it uh, like that for now at least. So region methods. So what's the method it's going to need? It's going to need like a take damage method. If I can type today. So it's going to need to be a private, no, because something's going to tell it to take damage. So it's going to need to be a public. Gonna need to, doesn't have to return anything. Not really interested. Um, so public void, and then we're gonna have take damage be a, probably spelled wrong, but I spelled lots of things wrong. There we go. Once we have that open, what does take damage do? Well, it does actually need a parameter. So in this method, we're gonna put a parameter of a float type. And what are we going to give this? We're going to give it a dam. So we are going to give a dam to damage. And we are going to, if the current health is equal, not equal. If current health greater than 0, then we want to, if current health equals 0, or is greater than 0, current health minus equal a dam. So we take a dam from current health, and then what would we do? So we actually probably want to clamp it as well. So current health equals math f dot clamp, and we want regular clamp, and we're going to clamp it. So we're going to clamp current health between our lowest 0 and our maximum. Well, honestly, I'm not concerned too much, so maybe we just go between, oh, let's do max health. So that a brick can never go above its max health, which you could change if you wanted, but keep the same idea as players. Kind of, you want, if your player can't have like infinite health builds, you want your vault bricks and enemies too. So then if the current health is uh, um, additionally, if current health, okay. Now this would work normally, would work pretty well. Um, there is one thing that this if statement doesn't do, and that's if we're less than. So if we clamp this, we can never go below. So actually this might be, 0 might not be appropriate here. Um, because if it stopped at 0, well, we'll try it. We'll see how it goes. So then if, because we always want the reduction to happen, but we don't always want the death of the brick to happen. So let's go if current health equal 0. So if it is equal to 0, destroy our brick. And I'm not going to use the destroy method. I'm going to use, it's probably bad verbiage too. Break. Break brick. And the reason I don't want to use destroy is because I want things to happen on it. When this occurs, where destroy, we'd have to set up delay and all that stuff. So this way I can just continue on my way without worrying about that. So if current health equals 0, this code will run. So let's go ahead and define that. So outside of our take damage, and we'll just called to called from called from outside to deal damage. And then down here we can do a public or private rather. Now, why do we do private here? Because take damage is going to take care of this call. So we don't necessarily want it to, uh, don't need it to be accessible for everybody. And does this need any parameters? Not really. Everything here is going to be referenced by the brick itself. So break brick. Alternatively, we could even do this, which might be a little easier to understand. Whoops. So cut and paste. And then I'll change the body here to do something. So why would I do it this way? It's just in favor of readability. So this way I can always WAYS check if brick should be broken. Brick should be broken. So the action of actually breaking the brick is not handled, it is not decided to be called here. It is always called and then executes whatever it wants based on its thoughts and feelings. So we have bricks and breaks. So if the current health is equal to 0, then we'll do some other stuff in here. You could do this either way. Some people would rather have all their if statements in here, which might be cleaner, versus this is all of the logic. So the actual breaking of the brick, we might move into a method that's put in here, but this is fine. So break brick, if current health is equal to 0, then what do we need to do? Well, we can turn this, just start by turning this game object off. So game object dot set capital S lowercase g capital S set active false. So this will just make the object not active anymore. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. Let's actually set up the part of this that goes on the ball now, because something has to call this take damage that we made, right? So that's going to be the ball. When the ball collides with this thing, it's going to tell it to take damage. So let's go ahead and look at our ball script. So over on our ball script, we have a nice little set here. I just need to check yep. So RB component, we have all these rigid bodies. Um, we should probably actually require one if we want, uh, but you can add that if you would like. Freeze rotation true, ball force good. RB velocity, magnitude, max velocity. So we have some basic movement stuff in here that we did for initializing the ball. Now we're going to want to make the ball damage bricks. So what do we need to do in order for it to damage bricks? Well, first thing is we need to check if we do collide with something. So uh, on collision, so on collision enter. So this essentially happens when we collide with an object. This gets called by the physics engine. So is it kind of like a notification? So notify I have been colliding with another object. So on collision enter, this is when the collision happens. So initializes. What would we do on collision enter? So we'd probably want to get our brick if it's on the other object. We want to see if we collided with a brick. So the brick um brick equal get component brick. So one thing to note that's important is if there is not a brick script, this will be null, which is why we create this variable first so that we know if it is null, because this method will return null if it is not. Um, brick equals get component, that's not quite right. We actually need collision dot lowercase game object dot get component. So we need to check our collision. So I think collision was a struct. Maybe you're wrong about that, but collision is a type of object that we can get a game object from. So the game object that collided. So this is our other game object, not our game object, the ball. So this will be the brick, and the brick's object getting the component of brick that is on the brick object. So then find brick components. So find the brick component, and once we find the brick component, then it's simple. Then we can continue into our if statement. And if brick is not null, then we can go on and continue to talk to the brick. And we need to deal damage. So we ask the brick to take damage. And what is the damage that we actually want to pass into here? Because we have to pass something in. So we could type a hard number, or what I would actually do is go ahead, go up here, create another serialized field. So this one's going to be for the damage that ball deals on collision. On collision. And this is going to be a serialize so that we can edit in inspector. Serialized field, private, float, uh, damage, which is probably spelt wrong. And we'll default this to say 10. So then let's put put that damage in here. Damage. Save up. Control Shift S. Okay, so now our ball should ask the brick to take damage if it collides with it, and that brick should hide itself. Um, let's go ahead and go into our Unity and see if it does such a thing. So, um, did something change? The physics material got removed? Is that, huh, why is this? That's weird. That's the problem with live coding. Sometimes it breaks live. So, max velocity, initial force -10, ball script, 10 damage. Do we have a console error? No console error. Constraints layer overrides nothing. Ball physics, let's try running it again. Odd. The ball physics should be fine. Max velocity, damage. Let's try popping that up to 20. Interesting. Initial force, RB, rigid body. It keeps defaulting rigid body. Okay, so if we hit play, that should fill in by itself, right? Yep. Ball rigid body now has ball physics. Ball physics. Can we just put 0 in here? 0 in here. Bounce combine. Play. Then the paddle. Rigid body. This is the last check and then we're just moving on. Yep, we're just moving on. I guess it doesn't work today. I'll look at some other time. Anyways, um, okay, so it bounced off that one. Something's weird about the paddle, but you can see it bounces down, bounces up, and then there we go. Okay, so it is working. Right now it doesn't score anything, and it also does like there's a couple other things we'd hope. Oh, hey, I just seen the chat now. Hello. Um, so we're doing pretty good now, and we're just trying to get a couple thing. With that troubleshot, we'll have to come back to the paddle at some other time. But we'll continue to go on to our other scripts. Let's see what ones we need. We need a singleton game manager. Uh, so we're going into a Brick Breaker single game manager, which sounds terrifying, but it's actually one of the simplest things you'll program. So, while I generate that, I'll probably, yeah. So if I go into scripts, right click, create, and we'll go a C# script, and I just want my little thing here. And this is going to be my game manager. That's crap. Well, we'll delete that one. Can't have spaces in class names, and I don't know if it'll open right. So we'll just ignore that one. So we'll create a new C# script. Game manager. So, what are we doing with our game manager that makes it singleton? So there's just going to only be one singleton game manager. Um, yeah. So streaming times are a little erratic because I'm still in my master's, but we'll keep these videos up as much as possible. Um, and the streams as well. Just may not be at a consistent time, but uh, all should be fine. 9/6/ uh, something like that. Yeah. So as always, feel free to ask questions in the chat since this is a live thing. Always happy to see messages. Um, so we're gonna cut our current, not our health. I guess I filled that in, so let's just type it by hand, I guess. Uh, regions. So we need our regions. So starting with region bars. And we're gonna end our region there. End region. Control C. And so what are we doing here? Basically just setting up our structure again. So methods. I know this must be super interesting to watch this part typing, but this should be almost our last one for today. Um, accessors. We have bars, methods, and accessors. So what bars is a game manager going to need? Um, that kind of depends on you. I'd probably come back to that. I like to focus on what my class is going to do first usually. So I'll go ahead into methods and just kind of see how this is. And game manager is going to manage a scene, so it probably needs to manage that. How are we going to manage that? We're actually going to want to make this a singleton via some code. Um, and to do that, we need to make sure there are no other ones existing. So actually, I'm going to start with my onEnable method. So private void onEnable, this just means that when this game object enables, nothing else happens. Or I mean, all of this happens rather. So onEnable, all of this stuff happens. So we want to um, validate that there's a single object. So maybe just something like single manager. So we have single manager, and then what do we want to do? This is going to be a method. So we'll probably define that. Whoop. Something threw off my typing here for a second. What is that? Okay. Single manager. This is going to be a private. Um, And we got void, because it's not going to return anything. Then we got parameters, then we got brackets. So singleton manager shouldn't have any parameters because we're basically just checking our own class. Um, this brings in, what does every singleton usually have? It does have a static game manager instance. Pretty generic. It's so generic, and I've done it so much that it auto completes correctly. Usually we would make an accessor for this. At least a lot of patterns I've seen use it. So we do public, and then we think about it, and it would be instance. What type is it? Game manager. So public instance of a game manager object. And this is going to get return instance. Here's kind of where it varies a little bit. You could set it up to either have a set or do some extra checking. We're not going to do that today because we're actually going to handle it via this. So with that accessor and variable out of the way, let's go over back to our single manager method. So this is going to make sure there's only one manager, and since we make sure there's only one manager, what happens? So we have to find all the singleton managers. So first, before we do that, we can check our instance. So I like to make my instances null. Because Unity has pretty decent null checking or null false, whatever they like to call it. Um, so game object is nullable, therefore we set it equal to null. So if instance is equal to null, we can quickly set instance equal to this. Um, which may not work so nice on a website, but in this context works pretty nice. To do it this way. And so otherwise that means there is another instance. So we just want to else not instance. We want to destroy else we just want to destroy this. So lowercase game objects is essentially how this easier one works. Um, and all of this you'll see become more important once we do the scene management, possibly in a different day or video. We'll see how it goes. Um, but for right now, this is how this will work a little bit better. So now that we have all of this, we could probably go over to Unity and test it. Um, so if we go here and then just create some 3D objects so we can see them. Cube, and let's just do Control D and move that as well. Whoop, there's something, no, brick is red, so this is all good. Um, So then let's put the game manager script on both of them. So if we put the game manager script on both of them, which I didn't do this quite as easily as I could have, but because if they're right next to each other in the hierarchy, you could also just right click and add a component. Anyways, if we hit play, you'll notice that only one singleton persisted, and that's because he became the instance first. So I think probably if we flip them in the hierarchy, they'll render differently, or not. Hey, can't be right all the time. Um, so yeah, something about that one processes before the other one and turns it off, and the one becomes the instance. Not super exciting on its own, but um, when you want like score information stuff, it could be. So if we want our game manager to calculate like a total running score, um, we can actually go through and where we set the instance equal to this. So we can set it to do not, is it don't destroy on load, which does not feel quite right, but that's how they worded it. So don't destroy on load basically won't destroy on the load. So if we change scenes, if you've watched any of the Mario Party videos, there, that's basically how you keep things persistent through scenes, whether it's references or what have you. So, um, do not destroy on load game object, destroy game object, and that should be good. So we can begin to work on our um, can begin to work on our scoring. There we go. Yep. So let's go ahead and work on our scoring. So here would we probably make an accessor because private I don't want this to be a comment. Let's make it a variable before we comment it. That's an inconvenient place for a shortcut. Okay. Private. So private's going to be float, or we can do int. I'd probably opt for int in this case because do we want decimal points? Do we want bricks to be worth fractions of points? Um, Probably not. So let's go ahead and do lowercase total, capital S core. Um, and we'll keep going through this. Pretty simple. Equal, let's default it to 0 because we don't want them to have a base score. We want them to earn a score. So then in the accessors, we actually need to make something. And this should be, because it's returning a static. Oops. Should be public static. No, this should be private static. This should be private static. And then this should be public, and this should also be static. And you'll see why once we start doing the UI. So we got a nice little thing, game instance, instance, return instance. Uh, Feeling a little dry. So here we go. We'll make a nice little accessor for this guy. So this will be an accessor that is public. Uh, Public score. We could make this static as well. Public score. Thing is, yeah, that could be fun. Let's try static. Now, why static? And if you're really new to programming, some of this might look, the statics might worry you a little bit. It just means you can access them from the class, basically. So the only thing it means for this line specifically is that instead of total score, we actually want to get the instance. And we want to get the instance's total score, which since this is the same class, we can get it even though it's private. Which is a little technical, but it's fine. Um, Probably also want a method to add to the score, which that could also be static. Private, static, void. One thing to keep in mind with statics is sometimes you have to really keep an eye on your methods that way because sometimes you'll call something and you won't be calling everything from a static. You might be calling some things from static and some things from not, which can cause problems if you're not keeping close track of your static variables. But for these simple ones, they should be just fine. Add to score, parenthesis, line. I just have to check this screen real quick. Okay. So this guy will be needing an integer input, a score, and then this one can just add. I wonder if this, no, no, it doesn't, because if I add a, alternatively, we could use a set, but I don't really want to do that because of the incrementing, so we'll just leave it add score. So it'll be instance dot total score plus equals a score. Um, and you could always make total score static as well. It is just at that point, it would be kind of weird that we have an object, uh, mono behavior object in general. So we continue with our score and we can go over to our brick. And now what does brick need to do? health bars. Our brick needs to add a certain something to it, which is a point value. Point value, and that point value is a, whoops, serialized field that is private of type integer. Do something like PT value or score value. So score val. Let's make it worth at least 10 points by default. Notice I use 10, 100, 50, 500 common numbers quite a bit if you watch the other videos or other streams. Um, big numbers make uh, big obvious attention drawing results. So don't be afraid to make overly big uh, default values or just game breaking values when you're doing small bits of code and doing a lot of testing just to see what the kind of effect is on it. Um, except in while loops. Score. So similar to how ball collide with brick, brick collide with nothing. But brick, when destroyed, contacts game manager and adds score. So our brick breaking method is going to have another thing. So we don't have to worry about it if it's active, only if we destroyed the brick. So we can still use this script. And with that script, then we'll go game manager dot add. Maybe I need to go. Maybe I already forgot what I called it. Oh, private. That's supposed to be public. There we go. And then we'll add it. And then what are we adding? We're adding our score value. Score, score value. Um, so then what am I gonna do? I'm going to, just so I can see it running, debug dot log, should we make it an error message? Log error. So debug.log just does like standard statements, but debug log error and warning can both be used to access the error and warning sections, of course. But so if you have like problems that are potentially big, you can always raise an error uh, while you're in development. So we're gonna log error the total score. Nope, don't need this, probably. Instance.total score. We're gonna save and we're gonna move back to Unity. All right, so if I hit play and move over to console, 10. This is vexing. Very vexing that that no longer works. But it might be something to do with my rigid body setup. So we'll see. But here's our 10. So debug log error. If we go from here, what else can we do? So we can do a little bit more. Um, let's say our scoring system is pretty much working. We probably want some way to measure how many objects, how many bricks are left so we know when the game ends. Um, which would be good. So we could do that in the game manager. Um, and every time that hits, we just throw up a new UI panel. Pretty easy, probably. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's label our total score. Player score. Would be kind of funny to have a multiplier instead and just keep multiplying it by like binary twos and then at some point dividing so it grows really fast and then grows slow. Um, that's a possible fun game development thing. But for now, we're just going to make a new array. So this is going to track how many objects or bricks. Okay, so let's do a brick object. Um, yeah, so because we're entering every time, we want basically our thing to refresh. So if we had an array here, we could do that. We could track our bricks here. Um, there does become one obvious problem, and that's that if the game manager is persistent and the array empties, when does it refill and when does it actually run to pull up the next bit of UI for you to change levels? So um, this might not be the best thing to do here. It might actually be better to do it somewhere like um, so to separate that out between a game manager and a level manager. So if we create a new C# script, level manager, and if we pop up a level manager, we'll see this default generated code. Uh, it might be time to stop programming for the day pretty soon. Boy, I was doing Python earlier, and that was, I mean, it probably would have been okay if the tutorial kept its variables straight. Uh, yeah, that's one of the things you really have to keep an eye on. Are the variables persistently named and straight, like straight in a line? Can't be introducing undefined variables inside book. Um, so level management. Here's where we're going to do our array. Um, this is just going to make it easier for people to develop and design levels without the need for programmers to be involved. So bricks, bricks. Okay. So what I'm going to do is say that we'll just do a simple one and make this a serialized field. And this is going to be bricks. Brackets for array. New brick array. Huh. Oh, that's not right. Is it parentheses? Who remembers? Oh, it needs a name. That's what it's. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yep, that's what it was. Darn. Don't really like that. 0 in there. I guess it's. This is why I usually just default everything to list. Brick. Um, Similarly, bricks equal to new list of brick. Yeah, lists are a lot more convenient if you're just storing stuff and you're storing it procedurally. Um, then you can always use like to translate them into arrays. So makes it a lot more convenient. We'll say this is private list of brick. Do hash region vars. Use my end region, and then region methods. Are we going to need methods for this? Yeah, and we probably won't need accessors. But we'll at least copy and paste the text just in case. So methods right here. So let's say we want to remove a brick, right? So this will track how many bricks are currently in the scene. We'll assign them in the inspector, and we'll get to that in just a second. So what does this do? This is a public method that returns nothing, and it removes a brick. Remove rev brick. So removing a brick, and what does that do? So we need to have a brick to do that. So some brick, and then bricks dot remove a brick. And you could also have one that was void brick. And then add brick, we're just gonna go and we're gonna do brick, a brick, and we could do bricks add brick. I'm not going to do any scripting with this, but this is very important for this because how else are we going to know when the scene ends or when our level ends if we don't know when our brick is done? So, I can probably continue. Just gonna check my time real quick. How much time we got? Then that's a new display. Time is not, there we go. So we have, yeah, we've been going for about an hour. So I'll probably try and wrap this up pretty quick. We'll do one more test of the brick and then probably leave it there. So let's go back to our Unity environment. And we're gonna go to our brick. So we're gonna add a new object. So create empty LVL manager, and then LVL manager is going to get a component. Level manager, and level manager is going to get brick. So let's duplicate that, and then select all the bricks. Nope. Select level manager, lock the inspector open, and then highlight these and drag them into bricks. So we have 3 bricks. If we hit play, it should have removed one of these bricks. Oh, maybe we didn't do that in brick yet. So if we open brick, yeah, much like we added a score, we haven't removed that other one yet. Um, just so that we can get a quick test and kind of close this tutorial part, I'm gonna go ahead and game manager. Instead, I'm gonna find object of type. What type is it? So of the type level manager. Now I want to remove brick, and removing brick, I want to do the next thing, which is pass in this brick object. Okay, now once that loads up, let's go ahead and switch over to the Unity screen. Now if we hit play, we'll see that one of the bricks we added got taken away from the list. So it goes from 3 to 2. So with this one, we'll probably sit here for a little while on it, and we'll come back to this in another video and stream. So yeah. So if you're watching the video after the fact, thank you for watching, and remember to like and subscribe. And if you're in the Twitch, feel free to follow or message and hang out for a little bit longer.